Welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly, and now for your hosts, Joe Cortez and Brian VanderBeek.
Hi, welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly, where we take a look at games from last week and the upcoming week. I'm Joe Cortez, joined by Brian VanderBeek. And let's look back to last week, Brian. One of the games that we didn't really get involved with in depth was Downey versus McNair.
Yeah, Downey got in the win column last week, defeating McNair 61-46 in another calculator game for the Knights.
There's going to be a lot of those.
I think so. Well, McNair is a team a lot like Downey, who's going to spread you out and throw a lot. Osei Brown from McNair, 28 of 52 for 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The thing that stands out to me there is that he completed 28 passes for 281 yards. In the high school level, if you can hold a team to 10 yards or less per pass completed, and then on the other hand of that, do the quick math, you've got 24 incomplete passes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of yards or a lot of time, a lot of plays that didn't pan out for McNair. Downey down at halftime in that game. It was pretty close, 26-23. Explodes for 31 points in the third quarter
alone.
That's terrific for the Knights getting it together, especially after that disappointing Week 1 loss they took. So Downey on track, 61 points in Week 2, ready to start flying.
Isaiah Larry had a big game. He's the receiver that's kind of formed a connection with P.J. Wilson. He had 3 TDs and caught two-point conversions. Jeremy Plaw said at the Modesto Quarterback Club meeting on Monday. That there were 200 offensive plays run in that game.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's a lot of offensive football right there. But, yeah, it looks like Downey is kind of on track now. Mm-hmm. And another team that's on track in the MMC is Davis. The Spartans are 2-0.
How about that?
And they led 34-0 at halftime over Franklin of Stockton. Had another big game from quarterback Zach Magana. They got 114 yards from Josiah Millhouse. I hope I'm saying that right. Mm-hmm. He went over the 200-yard mark in the first week of the season, back again over 100 yards. So it looks like Tim Garcia has the Spartans on the right track.
Yeah, they'll have a tough test this week. They're going to Los Banos, and that's a tough place to play. Mm-hmm. And
on the west side.
And Los Banos is looking good. We'll talk about more than that when we get to our picks.
And another game that we need to look back on, I was at Enochs High this last Thursday night for Enochs versus Buhack Colony. Now that game actually got over after our deadline.
Right.
So I filed my story as best I could and then sat around and twiddled my thumbs, or more like bit my fingernails, that I could get the final score into our print edition. I think we got it into our print edition.
We did.
Didn't get it into Merced's. It's life in the newspaper business. But I had a chance to talk with James Stacy, head coach of the Eagles at the Quarterback Club. Here's what he had to say.
Coach, you had a tough game last week with Buhack Colony, kind of a back-and-forth affair. What turned the tide there in their favor?
Well, in their favor was the fact that their offensive lineman was a lot bigger than our defensive lineman. We're still very small in the middle. They had some good guys. They had a big running back that came through the line real hard, real fast. Kind of got us a little bit misdirection on it. They were able to push us out of the way. We went back and forth with them, trading touchdowns. We had some really good runs off of our running backs there. But in the end, they were able to get more yardage than we were.
On the bright spot, you had a big game from Eddie Alverson, your junior kick returner.
Eddie did a really good job. He had two kick returns for a touchdown, one of them being a 91-yard return. He's quick, he's shifty, he's able to change direction and change speed real nicely. We're expecting some really big things out of him.
And things don't get much easier this week. You've got Division III section champ Manteca.
Yeah, we have Manteca. They're not quite as big as they were last year, but they're still extremely well coached. You can see it with the way they move, the way they line up. Quarterback's really shifty in the backfield. They've got some good running backs. It's got some speed back there, so we definitely have our work cut out for us that way.
That's up there?
That's at Manteca. Yeah, we play on Friday night.
Best of luck to you, Coach.
Thank you.
Enochs this week travels to take on the reigning section champion, Manteca, Division III section champion, Manteca Buffaloes. But that's going to be a big test for them.
Absolutely.
hopefully they get a big performance from Eddie Alderson. Eddie returned 2 kickoffs last week for touchdowns and really had a breakout game. So that'll be an exciting matchup. Let's move along to this week, week 2, which is actually the 3rd week of action. The biggest game of the week?
Oh, the Holy Bowl.
The Holy Bowl.
Gotta be.
St. Mary's versus Central Catholic here at David Patton Field.
David Patton Field. I've covered this game probably 6 or 7 times over the years, both at Patton Field and.
I've never covered one.
Oh, you got it this week?
No.
Oh, you don't have it this week?
I'm going to Modesto.
It's always a great game, no matter where it's here up in Stockton, and always a great matchup. Just really a spirited game, a lot of spirit in the stands and on the field. It means a lot to these guys. And
Sure.
I remember way back when in the 70s, early 80s, when this rivalry first got going, and they'd pack MJC Stadium for this game. But it has a great history, and I had a chance to see Central Catholic in their opener last week at Atwater, and they won huge.
Convincingly.
Was it 663? I don't even forget the score. It was a 63 to something. It was big. But anyway,
suffice it to say.
What I took away from that game is talking with Roger Canepa as he was coming off the field, the Central Catholic coach, and he was almost giddy. And Roger's not bubbly that way a lot, but he came into that game knowing that he doesn't have the 300-pounders on the line anymore that he has had the last 3 or 4 years. But what he does have is weapons like he's never had. You know, Hunter Petlansky, a quarterback, not only passing the ball to a bunch of receivers led by Jared Rice, but running the ball. They had a goal line situation, and you always saw Central Catholic goal line situations just go big, just go into a hog formation, just pound people. All of a sudden, there's Hunter Petlansky with one back in a shotgun at the goal line doing the read option.
I don't believe it.
They're in the read option at the goal line. I'm going, and Roger was joking about that. He said, "Oh, that'll give teams something they have to prepare for now." It was great. It was great. Montel Bland had concussion issues to start the season. He was cleared to play. Didn't play much. 10 carries for 40 yards. Khalil Dillard, terrific looking back.
Yeah.
Mentioned Jared Rice as the top target. Nicholas Navarro, another great target. Rice had a 100-yard interception return that really broke that game open in the second quarter. But
that kind of changed the game, right? It was
Central. It was obvious already that Central was going to dominate. But if Atwater had a chance to get back into the game, it was at the end of that drive, and it was a third down from the 4, and it was just a crossing pattern, and Rice picked it off, made a couple moves, and was gone.
Would have made it a 1-score game.
Would have made it a 1-score game,
and instead it's 3 scores.
It's 3 scores and then 4
Lights
scores
out.
and years ago,
It's 7 years ago.
7 years ago. But now Central Catholic going into the Holy Bowl, they've got to be sky high on their home field with all these weapons. Their big concern, I think, against St. Mary's, which beat Cardinal Newman, convincingly, is being able to match up physically with St. Mary's.
Which is kind of a change from years past, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's Central that's really big, and St. Mary's has all the skill. It's kind of reversed this year.
I think St. Mary's has the size and skill this year. So we'll see.
Dangerous.
We'll see how that goes. Another big game this week, Modesto is going to visit 2-0 Patterson.
That's right. 2 2-0 teams here. And Modesto coming off a big win over Stag of Stockton. Nathan Phillips, who was replacing Tiki Tonga, who was our all-district quarterback last year, had a breakout game last week, 17 of 21.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a mathematician. That's well over 70%, 80%, for 348 yards, 4 TDs, no picks, and also ran for 100 yards.
Wow.
So,
well, Patterson is obviously 2-0, as we mentioned, with 2 wins over Escalon and Ripon, scored 85 points. Both of those games are on the road. It'll be the home opener for the Tigers. And you were telling me the other day you've never seen a game out there.
Never visited
Patterson. You got to get there. It's one of the really neat.
Oh, I'm going.
Yeah,
that's where I'll be this week.
That's great. And talk to me beforehand, because there's some great spots to go before the game too that you're going to want to check out.
Oh yeah,
in Patterson, absolutely. Well, we've talked about these games. Now let's go into some picks. Let's start with the Holy Bowl. Central Catholic versus St. Mary's, both coming in at 1-0. Central obviously having won last week at Atwater, and St. Mary's having defeated Cardinal Newman.
Based on what you said, with all their skill, based on what I saw in the offseason of scrimmages and passing league and things like that, I'm going to go with Central Catholic. I kind of like their skill. You know, they're not as big as they have been in years past, but I think they were just like so super big that they're still big. They just don't seem big, if that makes sense. So I think they've got plenty of size still. We're just not the type of size we're used to seeing. I'm going to go with the Raiders.
You know, I'm going to go with Central too. After seeing the diversity of their offense last week, and they showed a lot, and even with showing a lot, I have a sense they have a lot more to show that they didn't. And at the end of the game, when they went into the shotgun, the kind of the read option, they did that for the sole purpose of showing that to St. Mary's, so they'd have to prepare for it. And Petlansky ran it to perfection. He just read the defensive end, outside linebacker, and just shot up the middle for an easy touchdown.
What do you think of Petlansky?
He's a better runner. He looks like he's faster this year than before. Obviously, a great arm, and he has weapons. I mean, it's we'll see more and more.
Strong.
He's a very strong kid. He's a big
tough
kid.
to take down.
He's a
first
big
draft.
kid. So we both agree on Central there. Clovis West at Turlock. Clovis West coming in at 2-0. They beat Merced obviously in week 1. Last week, strange one. They beat Centennial of Bakersfield, a very, very good team, 9-2. After their shootout against Merced, they win a
3-run bombs. late in the
That's
game
right.
there.
That's right. The bullpen let them down.
I'm going to go with Clovis West. I think Merced is a hair better than Turlock. So based on that comparative opponent, I'll pick the Eagles.
You know why I got to go with Clovis West? My nephew's a junior there.
I knew it had to do with some
Absolutely.
sort of
A family thing. You
VanderBeek.
can never go with that. And he is a VanderBeek, so if he's watching, hello. And yeah, so we'll go right from there to, anyway, we agree on Clovis
Yes.
West there on the big C-dub. Modesto Patterson, the 2-0 teams, we were just talking about that.
Kind of tough here. I'm going to go with Patterson. I think they have more weapons, more options.
Yeah, we're going to agree on that too. The Panthers are 2-0 against two teams that haven't won yet. They're 0-4. Patterson has played two pretty good teams, although we're still on the board about wondering how good Ripon is.
Yeah.
Having gotten blown out 2 weeks in a row. So we agree Patterson in that game. Tokay Downey.
I'm going to go with Downey. I'm a P.J. Wilson guy. He had a big week last week. Malcolm Green had a big week last week. Isaiah Larry had a big week. I think they're on track.
Well, same thing we said about Modesto. Tokay is 2-0, but they beat winless teams in Hercules and Bear Creek. I like Downey in this game too, but in a shootout.
I think most of Downey's games is a shootout.
See, that was safe. That was safe. Let me see. And the last game we're going to pick, Davis at Los Banos. Davis putting that 2-0 record on the line against the Tigers.
I'm going to go with Davis. I've seen Zach Magana, and he's a real steady quarterback. And this Josiah Millhouse apparently he's the real deal. I can't wait to see him. But I'll go with the Spartans this week.
Actually, we're going to disagree on one here finally. I'm going to go with the Tigers. They defeated Scotts Valley last week. Scotts Valley, a really nice program over in the Monterey area, coming off 3 straight winning seasons. And for Los Banos to go into their house and clobber them the way they did, I just like Los Banos.
That's enough for you.
I just like Los Banos at home. Also, Davis beating East Union 16-6 last week. Not exactly a real strong effort. And that game was a 1-score game until Davis got a safety with about 5 minutes left to make that a 10-point game. So that's for the picks. Oh, and speaking of these games, for coverage of these games, make sure to go to modb.com. We've got a lot of things going on there: galleries, box scores, stories.
And you can still buy papers. You can still buy a paper.
You can still get newspapers. Yeah. And speaking of galleries, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make the paper that goes online.
That's right.
And a lot of the photos look like this.
hope you enjoyed those images. Hey, you know, no offense to our photographers.
Oh, jeez, I know where you're going with this.
The best photo so far this year is your sunset photo, and you're not a.
I'm not a photographer.
You're not a photographer.
And that was taken with an iPhone, of all things.
You nailed it, Beek.
Well, like a photographer, I anticipated it.
Did you?
Yeah. I've seen sunsets like that at Escalon before, and I knew it was coming. And finally when it came, I was in position to do it. So I'm learning from our photographers how to do that.
You can check that out at modv.com.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Denair, which got its first victory since 2012, into the 19-game losing streak. They actually won on the field last year one time, but then they had to forfeit that game for using an ineligible player.
Go Coyotes.
But the Coyotes beat Riverbank 54-8, so they're off the schneid. Congratulations to them.
Good for the Coyotes. Well, we've got, as we've talked about, we've got a great slate of high school games. There's just no excuse not to take advantage of this great early season weather. And so I guess that's it. So for Joe Cortez, I'm Brian VanderBeek. Have a great football weekend.